What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hashing It Out with Javi. This is episode 15. Jeez Louise, already 15. Um, so I didn't record a podcast last week just because I've been insanely busy, both professionally and personally. But I wanted to get back and record one this week. People have been asking me to do kind of the question and answer podcast, which I've done, which is basically me talking and answering questions and stuff, and just kind of going on tangents about different subjects. That are given to me from my Instagram account, and I have a lot of literally amazing people who follow me and ask for these things. So I am going to go ahead and answer a bunch of those. But I figured before we started, since it's been we're 2 months, we're a month and a half into a little bit over a month and a half, month and 2/3 into rather 3/4 into the new year, and kind of talk about some of the crazy shit that's already happened in 2021. I think we've had a couple very insane years, and some very crazy stuff started already in this year, and that things that I think people aren't talking about. So I'm gonna start off with just talking about some of the crazy events, and then we'll get into the questions, and then I got some cool stuff at the end of the podcast because if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I post a lot of dumb, totally inappropriate memes that are just funny and stuff. I like to make people laugh. But I also occasionally throw something in there to make people think and kind of just question things, because I feel a lot of us today are so bombarded with so much dumb information that we forget the important information. So I'm going to start to include some little historical blurbs here and there that just make people think. So anyways, starting off this year, right, the very first thing that happened was what? The storming of the Capitol building, right? By a bunch of QAnon folks. And if you don't know who QAnon is, I implore you and ask you to really look into QAnon and who they are. Vice did a great documentary on QAnon and tracked down who they were and kind of what it is. But there's millions of people in this country who are QAnon supporters, and these people believe that there's some rogue person within, or there was a rogue person rather within Trump's organization that was feeding them news early on and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's really this huge conspiracy. And honestly, I don't know if it's a conspiracy at this point. I just think we don't know who it is, but definitely something that a lot of people followed and fell into and felt it was big enough and strong enough and important enough to go fight for. And so, our country is built upon democratic values and principles, and our capital, the capital of the most powerful nation ever known to man, was stormed by a bunch of internet dorks. However, amongst those internet dorks were some very serious violent types. So what people don't really, a lot of people don't know, 5 people died during the storming of the Capitol building, right? One of those was a police officer, right? 5 people died. There's serious violence that happened during that storming. Pipe bombs were found, Molotov cocktails were found, tons of guns and weapons were found. But, the one most alarming thing to me that was kind of crazy is there was a guillotine. If you don't know what the guillotine is, I'm sorry, there was a gallows, basically a place to where you would hang somebody. Think of, the slaves in America who were hanged in the gallows. Like there was a gallows brought up to the Capitol building because these QAnon folks wanted to hang Mike Pence, because Mike Pence last minute did something that Trump didn't like. That's the vice president of the United States of America, or the past vice president of the United States of America, who still held a very important and powerful place in political office in our country, was being seeked out by the own people who supported him at one point to hang him. This is stuff that's fucking crazy. And we're not even considering or talking about this. Our democracy was under attack by a bunch of internet dorks alongside some very serious people. And by the way, if you think just because Biden's in office that these people are going away, these people are actually getting stronger now. Now they have a reason to actually fight. There was a young lady who was killed. Very sadly, she's I think she's an Air Force veteran of like 14 years. She was definitely a patriot of this country, and she was trying to climb through a window into an office where Mike Pence was located at in the back. And by the way, in the Capitol building, those police protect those politicians with deadly force. If you're climbing into an area where the vice president of the United States of America, or rather the outgoing vice president of the United States of America, is in, you're going to get fucking shot. And they shot her. They shot her in the neck. And there's a video that shows it. It's very gruesome. She gets shot in the neck and she fucking dies. And she's wrapped in a Trump flag around her, literally like a cape around her neck. You know what I mean? So she now has become a martyr to these people. She's going to be looked up to by these people as somebody who martyred herself, a patriot, a person who was part of our military force. So these people are not going away. If anything, these acts that happened and the ability to take over the Capitol building, you know what I mean? The literally the halls of justice of our democratic nation in such an easy fashion, it's just going to empower and enable more people. So I don't envision these people and these types going away anytime soon. If anything, I envision them getting stronger. So that's crazy. That's the most craziest thing that's happened this year. It's probably the craziest thing that's happened in our country, probably since 9/11, in my opinion. It's fucking insane. It's absolutely insane. And we'll have to continue having that conversation at some point because I think it's going to come back. Okay, second thing that happened that was kind of crazy is immediately after that happened, which is whether you like Trump or hate Trump, I don't personally care. I'm not the biggest fan of Trump. I think Trump did some great things for the country when it comes to like, if you could think of it like the business situations, or you could think of like tariffs with China and stuff like that. There's some stuff he did that was great. People fucking will never ever give him that credit. However, I don't like Trump personally. I think he's a piece of shit. I think he's not an example of the exemplary, or he's not the exemplary example of what we should be giving to the world as far as from a presidential perspective in this country. He just was a piece of shit in my opinion. With that said though, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the major social media platforms immediately deplatformed him right after the attack on the Capitol building, which is insane to me because as much as you dislike him, this country was built upon freedom of speech. And while these platforms are private companies, and sure, they have user agreements that say, hey, we can kick you off whenever we want if you don't say X, Y, or Z. At what point do these platforms become so big and so powerful that they can deplatform a president, an ex-president, anybody who's just saying what they want to say? I mean, I love to live in a country where I can say what I want to say, freely. And the person next to me, he could be a white supremacist. He could be a Muslim who hates Christians, or Christians who hate Muslims. He could be whatever it may be, but they have the right to speak their mind because freedom of speech is the most important thing. It is, after all, our First Amendment in this country. Freedom of speech is everything. The only thing more important than that was the Second Amendment, which is what? Guns, to protect the freedom of speech. So, deplatforming Trump, I understand that he potentially and probably absolutely incited the violence in the Capitol building, but still, man, I feel that freedom of speech is so fucking important. If you don't feel it's important, then go to other countries where you can't say what you want, you can't think what you want. Being able to have a free thought and voice, a vocal voice, is so critically important to the democratic nature of our entire country's history. So, to me, that was crazy. I don't agree with it. Again, I still think Trump's a piece of shit. I don't agree with what he was saying, but not being able to have a free platform on something that is hugely influential, has Twitter, has Facebook, has Instagram. These companies have gotten so big and so powerful that now they can sway political influence in this country at levels that I don't know if there's, I don't think the TV ever did it. I don't think the radio ever did it. Think about it, right? When we come to communications and kind of technology, we had the telegram system, and then we had radio, and then we had TV, and then we had the internet. Like, all these things were just different evolutions of ways to communicate with people in a broader audience. Social media is, you can't compare, for instance, a telegram to, a few million people in America to social media, which reaches hundreds of millions of people. You just can't compare it. So these companies have gotten so powerful. It's quite concerning to me. Again, I don't agree with Donald Trump. I don't agree with what he did. I definitely think he's at least somewhat of a culprit of what happened at the Capitol building. At some level, him, his son, Donald Jr. but I don't believe in silencing the opposition. I figure if it gets to the point where you have to, then use fucking violence to silence those people. You know, if they were not going to leave, if they were not going to do whatever, then let's use violence and get them out of there. But let's not silence people. You cannot silence your opposition. It's stupid, man. This country was built upon freedom of speech. Just my two pesos. All right. The third thing that was crazy this year, not crazy, but pretty cool, in my opinion, is Elon Musk became the richest man in the world. He superseded, he passed rather Jeff Bezos, right? The CEO and creator and founder of Amazon, was the richest man in the world. Elon Musk fucking passed him up. Elon Musk is just insanely a smart guy. You know, SpaceX, Tesla, like he is just, he is the Einstein of our generation. He definitely is that, which is pretty cool. Other funnier things not funnier, rather sad things in Hollywood. Kim K files for divorce from Kanye, right? Here's the funny thing about this. Kanye will be blamed for this fucking divorce. However, this is Kim Kardashian's third failed marriage. Kanye is mentally ill. Let's all be real here. He's definitely very, very mentally ill. And that sucks. And mental illness hits hard home with me because of friends and family who have dealt with that kind of stuff. So, it's too bad, but, Hollywood is Hollywood. The next one that really bummed me out this year already, Dr. Dre suffers from a freaking aneurysm. What? Dr. Dre? That's crazy to me. I think he's doing okay now. I mean, publicly he's been putting out words and stuff, and so I'm glad he's doing okay. But that was wild. And then the last one, which is kind of funny to me, and I'm going to make fun of it a little bit, is the Weeknd's Super Bowl show. It sucked. I don't care what anyone says. I think this will be the last time that the Super Bowl or the NFL allows a performer to do their own. Because, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but most other Super Bowl shows, they basically are kind of like orchestrated by the NFL and big producers from Hollywood and that kind of stuff. But this one, The Weeknd came in and said, "Hey, I'll spend my own money. If you guys let me do it, I'll spend my own millions of dollars, but I want to put on the show. It'll be my show, and I produce it, I create it, that kind of thing." It was okay. Just okay. But I think Super Bowl shows, I think people are really like excited about the halftime show. Like that's what everyone goes. I mean, most sports fans watch Super Bowl because they like sports, but the vast majority of everyone else who's not a true sports fan, they go to watch the fucking Super Bowl halftime show and the commercials. And it just didn't hit. I thought it was fucking silly. Really, really silly. I was like, okay, whatever, bro. I guess that's what you want to do. And the memes, by the way, were the memes that came out after the Super Bowl show were epic. I posted a bunch of those memes. They were hilarious. Definitely hilarious. Okay, so moving on. So those are all the crazy. Those are some of the crazy things. There's a bunch of other ones that happened that I didn't cover, but I was only going to cover some of them that happened early on in 2021. And again, we're only like a month and 3/4 into the year, so let's hope 2021 is a lot better than 2020. 2020 sucked for pretty much everybody. So moving on. So. Okay, so let's get to the questions. So people send in questions. And by the way, some of these questions are legit questions. People want answers to. And by the way, I'm nobody should be answering questions. I don't know why I get asked these questions, but I'll give my personal opinion. Again, it's just an opinion. It's just my 2 pesos. It's not anything. I'm not giving advice. I'm just giving my thoughts on things, by the way. So definitely don't take this shit. Take it with a grain of salt. It's just opinions. It's just my thoughts. And some of this stuff is silly, and some of it is just insanely stupid. So it just all random questions. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with some of these questions. So the first one is, let's see here. I have a bunch, by the way. So, what does success mean to you? That's a good one, actually. So success to me personally, and I think success is defined different by a lot of people, because I think today's times is a lot of people define success as like, what can I get? What things can I obtain? How many things in this world can I obtain before I die? And to me, that's just one very small aspect of success. To me, success means health, happiness, my son being in a happy, healthy place in his life, me knowing that I did a good job as a parent, me knowing that I'm being a good son, a good brother, a good cousin, a good person in society that can give back when needed. To me, success is a lot of things. Being successful with my career is a big part of success to me. And that doesn't necessarily mean money, because here's the thing, man. Here's what I have learned, and it's so cliche to say, like, find something you're passionate about and turn it into a job in a business or a career, and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's literally what I've done. Like, I've been working with technology for a number of years now, well over 20 years. I've been messing with computers since I was a young boy, building them since I was 14, 15 years old. And so now, being a leader at companies over the last few years that, sell global products and do global business and stuff like that, from a technological perspective, to me, has been insanely fun to me. Like, I literally don't work. I mean, again, it's so cliche to say, but I've turned a passion of mine into a career and have made so much money at it that I've been doing great in that aspect. And so, to me, that was a big part of my success. But more importantly than that is really the family aspect, the giving back aspect, the what kind of man have I grown myself into be. Success is a lot of those things to me. I think it's very sad today that when you look at a lot of people out in society today, especially younger folks, like, they think success is like, oh, the rapper who's out there with a, hollow fucking aluminum sounding gold chain and acting tough online, like in flexing online and shit like that. Social media flex and all shit. To me, that's not success, man. That's just bullshit, egotistical, dumb shit. So yeah, to me, success is all the other things that matter in life. And I think it's important. Why dudes be hitting me up? Well, here's another one, random one, and I'm going to try to make sense of it. Why do dudes be hitting me up right after they post a pic of them with their white girl? Well, I don't think it matters if she's white, brown, black, or blue, but they're probably hitting you up because they're just being dumb dudes. So guys are creatures of opportunity. If you give them opportunity, they're going to jump on it. Forget that guy, whatever. Moving on from that question. Again, there's some silly questions here. This is an interesting one. And actually, this is one I haven't heard in a long time, but what do you think about porn-induced ED? And I think what this person's talking about, I know, porn-induced ED would refer to porn-induced erectile dysfunction, meaning guys not being able to get hard because they watch so much porn that when they have the real thing, it's not as exciting as the porn, so then they can't get a hard on. This is actually an interesting question. I don't know enough medical data or like scientific facts on this question to give a legit answer, of whether or not this is a real thing or not. I can tell you this though, I believe 100% it absolutely can be a real thing. I mean, if you look at kind of the evolution of, for instance, when I was a kid growing up, like if you wanted to get your rocks on, you had to go to a liquor store and buy some freaking porn mag that had like a titty picture in it, and you were excited, and that was like, raving hard-ons for years. You know what I mean? Like the fact that now we have all this extreme adult content at our fingertips has completely modified the sexual landscape of our society. So, for example, you can go online now and you can find every kind of kink porn you can think of. I mean, everything from being tied up to raped. It's really weird in my opinion. And I definitely think it absolutely can totally 100% affect what people get off to. I mean, just a good example, for instance, and a lot of women aren't going to like to hear this, but I'm going to be honest. A bunch of women today are like, choke me. I like to be choked. It's so hot. Choke me. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to act like I'm raping you. Like, God, you want me to beat you to get off? Or like, I don't get it. Like, you want me to act like I'm raping you to get you off? It's so weird. And by the way, being choked is a very new phenomenon in the sexual community. This was not around 30, 40 years ago. And it all goes down to one guy who started doing it in porn. James Dean started choking women in porn. It became a very popular thing. Google it. James Dean choking women in porn. It became a very popular thing, and now the women are like, "Oh my god, it's so hot to be choked. It's so hot to be choked." And I'm like, "It's cool, dude. I'll choke stroke you if you want, but it's just weird. Like, it's just why do women? So we're talking about erectile dysfunction, but also women are now at the point where, like, for them to get off, it's got to be like really weird. They're like, spank me, choke me, fucking tie me up. I'm like, dude, this is so weird. Like, you got to have all that to get off. Like, can I just give you missionary and some fucking eye contact and stroke you till till you lose it? Like, it's just, we're in a weird place. That's not to say that I'm not kink shaming anybody, by the way. I hate that I have to qualify everything like that because everyone's so sensitive. Hey, whatever gets you off, I don't care. It's a free country. And do you, boo boo, do you. Like, I absolutely can give a shit. To me, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not, there's no, to me, like, there's no blood and shit involved. Like, do whatever makes you happy. Okay. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying the extremes of where we've gone today in society to get off sexually is getting weird. And the problem with it, I think, if there is a problem with it, is that it's only going to get more and more extreme. It's not going to get less. It's going to get more and more extreme. So if you look at, what was sexy or, what was the norm when it came to sex 20 years ago to what it is today, just imagine 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be weird. Like, what are we going to be doing? Like, it's fucking weird. So, but again, whatever gets you off, and good for you. All right. Another question. What are parents doing to give their kids some freedom during COVID-19? This is a good one. Sorry guys, I'm sitting here having some tea. But what are parents doing? So this is a good one because to me, it actually hits home personally because I have a young son. Well, not young. He's actually a young man. He's going to be 18 in April. And earlier on when we didn't know what was going on with this COVID thing, I was very like, no, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay home. We're going to be careful and stuff because we didn't really know what was going on with this virus and stuff, But now, I think we're at a point where we know, we know that it doesn't affect kids as bad. That's not to say it doesn't affect every young person. Of course, it affects young people. We know people in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. Who get very ill, people who die from this disease for sure. But the vast majority of children are not affected as bad from this disease as adults are. And the fear mongering put behind that is just insane. Parents are so scared. Like, oh my God, my kid's going to die. Here's the deal. One kid, I don't want to say the wrong age. I want to say the kid was like 12. One kid in the entire county of Los Angeles has died from COVID. One kid. Across the entire millions and millions of people that live in the county of Los Angeles, one child has died. Now, I'm not discounting that child's life. May that child rest in peace. And it's super sad and unfortunate that a child died. I get it 100%. As a father, that's fucking horrible. But for us to hold back and spread fear into our kids, we got to understand something here. And I'll get to answering the question here in a second, but I think this is more important than the question is, I don't want to put fear into my child that's going to carry into the rest of his life, that will carry into the next generation of like this COVID thing for children that it didn't affect. And I think that's critically more important than anything is that people are spreading fear into these kids. These kids are stuck at home. They're stuck on their TVs, on their fucking laptops, and on Zoom meetings for school and all this other shit. And this is affecting this generation. And it's going to continue to affect this generation going forward for the rest of their lives from a fear, anxiety standpoint, from a subliminal message standpoint, that for a part of our society, for a section of our society being these young kids being a section of our entire society, like, we as parents, I think, did the wrong thing. I believe we should have closed schools. I don't believe schools should still be closed. I believe we should have closed a lot of activities. I don't believe we should have closed parks and other activities that kids use to get outside and kind of let off some steam. I think we've done a huge disservice to this young generation. So for me personally, lately, my son's like, Dad, can I go to my friend's house? I'm like, yeah, get out of here. Go have fun. But early on, I wasn't that dad. I was like, no, I don't know what it is. But now that we know what it is, now that we know kind of who it targets, and again, it's the scary thing about this disease. Again, I'm going to say it again, and I hate that I have to framework everything so that somebody doesn't get upset or butthurt. I know that this affects different people differently. That's what makes it so scary as a virus. For sure, it affects different people differently. It may affect a 25-year-old, and he may not have any symptoms. He or she may not have any symptoms. It may affect the next 25-year-old very badly, and they get really sick. I get it. But kids are really, for the most part, not dying from this. So to affect them or to allow this for us to allow them to be modified subliminally for the rest of their life over this from a fear standpoint is just not acceptable to me. And so for me now, the way I explain it to my kid is, hey, man, I personally feel like if I got sick with this, I probably wouldn't do too well with it. I probably would get very, very ill. So if you do get sick, this is what I tell my son, who's going to be 18. You want to go out with your friends? You want to hang out with them and go do your dance stuff? That's awesome. Get out of the house. Get some vitamin D. Enjoy yourself. But understand one thing. If you do get sick and you do bring this shit home, you're going to be stuck in your room for 14 days. Maybe longer. So that's the risk you're taking. And that's okay. I'm okay with that risk if you're okay with that. But you ain't coming out because I don't want this shit. So that's cool. You know what I mean? Just as long as you know, just understand the risk pretty much. You know what I mean? But also, I'm telling my kid, go out and have fun. Go out and have fun. So that would be my take on, well, I guess, the question was, what are parents doing to give their kids some sort of freedom? Me personally, bro, to answer your question, I am just telling my kid go out and live his life at this point. When Trump was in office, all the way to the very last moments of his office, it was fucking Trump has no plan for this virus. He's a piece of shit. There's this, and that. He could have done X, Y, or Z. And then now when Biden gets in office, he literally said, I think it was day 2 or 3 that he was in office, that, hey, there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of this virus in the coming months. There's nothing we can do. They're going to change it. It kind of is what it is. And that's where I'm at right now. It is what it is. It's a virus. It's here with us. It's not going away. The Spanish flu in the 1900s, which was the last huge pandemic we had in this country, is the common flu we have today. This will be the common flu we have going forward. It is what it is. It's with us. It's not going anywhere. Let's deal with it. Let's understand the dangers of it. Let's understand that it is absolutely 100% deadly. It does kill folks. But let's also understand that a lot of young people don't have an issue with it. And let's not freak them out for the rest of their life. I just think that's the wrong approach to take. Okay, so here's some other ones. Should a man or father that isn't there for his children, unless he has to be there, have the right to claim them on their taxes? So I'll read that again. So should a man, by the way, sorry guys if I stumble on these because sometimes they're not written the best. They're kind of like it's Instagram talk, right? So should a man or father that isn't there for his children, unless he has to be there for them, have the right to claim them on taxes? So this is a question I have to break down. So because I've been in this position, and the tax laws in this country are actually, it's by state. So tax laws in California are whichever parent has the most custody, physical custody, gets to claim the child. Now, if the parents have 50-50 physical custody, the parent who makes the most money gets to claim the child, because the parent who makes the most money is obviously has the bigger tax burden and they have to pay the most for the child. Therefore, they get to claim the child. So this question is basically saying, sounds to me what she's saying is that the father is forced to be there by child support and our child custody laws, but maybe doesn't really want to be there. And so should the father be able to claim them on their taxes? I'm going to be honest with you. As a man who dealt with the family law system, both child custody and support for many years, many years, I was in and out of court trying to get full custody of my son since he was 2 years old. Probably dropped at least $30,000 in lawyer fees over the years. That's probably maybe actually a lot less. But anyways, knowing this system, like, to be honest, the little $1,500 or whatever you get back for claiming a kid is a drop in the bucket. It means fucking nothing. It literally means nothing. If you're fighting over that, then you haven't gotten to the point in your life yet where you understand like what the bigger picture is. And the bigger picture to me now, and even then, is to know that I'm raising a healthy kid. My child's with me. He's being raised in a healthy manner. Like, it's all about the children. You know, if you're arguing about the $1,500, that means nothing. Because I'll tell you what, kids are expensive. Kids are fucking expensive. And if you're worried about a tax write-off for the end of the year, that's a drop in the bucket. I mean, you spend more than that in a month on fucking childcare. So my advice to you would be not to give a fuck about that, to give a fuck about the mental health, the health of your child, how happy they are, and to understand that that little bit amount of money really means nothing. It's a drop in the bucket of life, and just when it comes to what's more important, you know what I mean? It's fucking nothing. I remember arguing this on early on with my baby's mom many years ago. And, you know, I got 50-50 custody at the age of 2 to 10. And I always made more money than her. You know, she would go on and off welfare. To this day, she's still doing the same thing. And it's crazy that, like, I always was able to, I claimed him, you know, and it's just because, hey, I'm spending a bunch of fucking money. Like, my story when it comes, I could do an entire podcast on just the story behind child support and child custody and kind of my son's situation and that kind of stuff. And maybe at some point I will do that. But the system today is as fair as it can be, but it's not fair. The system today 100% fucks over the good fathers out there, for sure. 100%. I could say that with experience, and I could say that with the full weight knowing kind of what the system did to me, for sure, 100%. To give you an example, when it comes to child support, for example, you know, I spent many years paying $749 a month in child support. $749 a month in child support. Now, keep in mind, I had 50-50 legal and physical custody, meaning we exchanged them week on, week off, and all decisions had to be agreed upon by both of us because we had 50-50 legal and physical custody, and I still had to pay $749 a month for many years. The day I got full custody of my son and they reversed the child support order, and now I had 100% custody, physical and legal, meaning his mother has, since that point, almost 8 years ago, has had zero physical, zero legal, and has not been involved at all. Not at all. Early on, she only had to pay $504 a month child support. So how do you go from 50-50 at $749 a month to now having zero custody and you only having to pay, how do you go from 50-50 custody and you receiving as a mother $705 a month to now having zero custody, but you only having to pay $504 a month? Now that happened for the first 2 or 3 years, early on, maybe 4 years, but she didn't pay for the first few years. I mean, literally, I had thousands of dollars in back. She had $1,000 in back child support. And I didn't expect that money. I didn't care about it. To be honest, I really didn't care about it. To be honest, kind of like the child support women in the office at the time that worked for child support, like kind of were like, they talked me into putting on child support because I didn't really care. What I cared about was raising my son. And it was just, I was shocked and baffled. Like, how the fuck did those numbers work out? Supposedly it's a mathematical program. Well, it turns out at the time she was smart. So instead of saying she worked and made money, she worked under the table. She went on welfare, all kinds of stuff. And that's how she pulled that off. Up all the way up until recently now, child support, I mean, she stopped paying that amount years ago. And then I was literally at 100%. Tell me how fair this is. At 100% custody that I had, I was getting $26 a month in child support. Literally $13 checks every 2 weeks. $13 checks every 2 weeks. That doesn't even pay for the fucking toilet paper my son uses to wipe his ass. But that's the court system. But you know what, though? I never went back to fight it. And I'm sure I could have got more money out of her. But at the time, she she took me back to court to turn off the $504 a month because she went on welfare again. And that's how they brought it down to now $26. And now, fast forward to a few years later, she's on Instagram talking about making $300,000 here and $100,000 there on all this Bitcam Bitcoin and a bunch of other like digital currency shit and whatever, but hasn't taken care of his son at all. So my point is the court system, and I could have fought it, but I don't want to fight it again because I pride myself, 100% pride myself on being the man that only cared about making sure his son was healthy, safe, and taken care of. The money never fucking mattered to me. I don't need your fucking money. But it's just an example of the court system being shitty. So to answer your question, don't worry about the taxes, man. It's just the taxes are a very small drop in the bucket of what really matters. What should matter to you is taking care of your kid, making sure your kid is healthy, and taken care of. Fuck the money. To be honest, the tax write-off, that's nothing. Well, it's $1,500 or $1,200 or even $2,000. I don't know what it is today, but it doesn't really matter. So that's the answer to that question. Ooh, this is another one. Why do people, I don't know the answer to this question, but I'll read it. So why do people refer to be a Sancho or Sancho? I don't know the answer to this question. Cause I don't think I've ever really been that in my life. So I don't know. I don't know why you prefer. I mean, I think maybe people enjoy being that because maybe it's like an exciting thing because like danger, right? Like you always got to be worried about this dangerous corner around the corner. Like, maybe there's some kind of excitement thing tied to it. I don't know. I don't have an answer for your question. Never been that. So I don't know why people enjoy that. That's kind of silly. So I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. All right. Ted Cruz. Talk about Ted Cruz. Good one. So if you guys don't know, Ted Cruz is the senator from Texas, right? He's one of the leaders from Texas. He recently has been an ambassador all over the internet, and he should have been, by the way, in my opinion. Because while Texas, and maybe people don't know, but Texas had, this is one of the things I should have put on my earlier intro about all the crazy things that happened, is Texas had a series of weather that came through for about a week that was the coldest weather I think the state saw like in 100 or 120 years, something like that. And so it got so cold in the infrastructure in Texas, like when they built out the gas lines and the water lines and all the infrastructure that it takes to serve services to people like electricity, water, gas, they never took into account that it would ever get this cold because it hadn't gotten that cold. So, 120 years, 100 years, whatever it was. And so, a lot of Texans have been suffering over the last week, and my prayers and thoughts go out to you guys out in Texas because I have a lot of people, friends out there, people on Instagram who've been sending me their stories, and it has been insanely sad and concerning, and people have died. I mean, people were so desperate. Now, how do I say this with being as considerate as possible? Some people died doing stupid things. Like some people were so desperate, they got so cold, they went in their cars in their garage, turned their cars on to heat up, to warm themselves up with the heater, and died because of carbon monoxide poisoning. Now that sucks. But people, don't run your fucking car in your garage. You will die. You know what I mean? But so a lot of people died from situations like that. Like people just froze to fucking death. Like it was extremely sad, concerning, and an absolute tragedy. And it's just, we'll look back at this and go, holy shit. But people are blaming, like people were going after like the heads of like the gas department, the electrical department. They were threatening them so much that on some of the websites for like, I think it was I don't know if it was electrical or gas company or the water company, but one of the utility companies, they had to take down the descriptions of who the CEO was, the COO, and the VP of finance, who all these people were. They had to take down their information because people were threatening to go to their house and kill them. Now, people understand something. This was not done purposely. That state was never meant to get that cold. Things are changing. Things happen. Now, if this happens 2 or 3 years in a row, we know climate change is a very fucking real thing. You know what I mean? Like this is something we have to start to plan for and fix things for. But if you go to North Dakota, for instance, and I have a follower up there who said, hey, and the follower wasn't laughing, but kind of mocked it in a bit and said, look, man, we have, they got down to 15 degrees and a little bit lower there where it was fucking cold, really cold. I mean, it's freezing cold. And this is not to make fun of anyone in Texas, by the way, man. My heart goes out to everyone out there. But this user said, hey, we have that temperature up here every year. during winter. We're sub-zero out here in the winter. And guess what happens? Our pipes don't freeze and they don't break. And our electrical grid is fine. And the reason why it is because it was built for the temperature that we live in. And that's right. So if this happens again and again and again, they're going to have to build an infrastructure to be able to handle and deal with that. But I mean, to get mad at people who didn't fucking fortune tell the future and try to go after people who run these companies as if they wanted people to die or to suffer is insane, man. This is nature. Mother Nature's a motherfucker. Out of all the things in this world you should be afraid of, ain't nothing you should be more afraid of than motherfucking nature. Think of earthquakes. Think of tsunamis. Think of fucking hurricanes. I don't know if you've ever been in a hurricane. I moved to Orlando, Florida on this huge contract when I was young, 23 years old. Was in a hurricane. Actually, multiple hurricanes when I lived out there. Hurricanes is the most forceful force of nature I have ever seen. And the reason why I say that is because like an earthquake comes, it strikes you for a minute. It's fucking violent. A lot of people could die. Buildings can fall. But it's over in a minute. And then you have aftershocks for a few days. A hurricane fucking lasts for days. And the power and strength from a hurricane, I would never forget the first one I was in. It was insane. Mother Nature is insane. I remember I landed in Orlando one day and I was looking for a place to live out there. And so I was in a hotel and then I was told that hurricane was coming. And I knew the hurricane could potentially have came through, but I had business to do there. I was 23, 24 years old. And so what do? I go buy a bottle of Absolute vodka. I buy 2 fucking cases of beer. And I buy like 5 Subway sandwiches and like 3 big ass family sized bags of chips. And I go sit in my hotel room because the hotels are fortified out there to deal with hurricane force measures. And they also have generators. So if you lose electricity and stuff like that, they will turn them back on for you pretty much. You'll have hot water and all that stuff. And so I remember looking out the window as the hurricane was going on and watching cars get pushed like fucking toys, across the fucking floor from a hurricane. Insane. Watching palm trees. You look at palm trees, the palm, us in California, like we look at palm trees, like palm trees over there, they sit underwater and that little palm you sit on the top of it, there could be like 30 feet of water and that little palm is what sits outside the water. And that's why palm trees are designed the way they are. Nature designed them to live in these kind of climates. And you would see like a 30-foot palm tree just get bent, all that little palm all the way to the floor and then back up and back to the other side on the floor. And like just watching the force of water and power and wind was insane. So I guess what I'm saying is hurricanes are fucking nuts. Mother Nature is fucking nuts. Cold weather is nuts. But the most important thing is like Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature is going to do. And to blame and attack humans for that is not okay, in my opinion. However, we're going to have to plan and get better. We're going to have to plan and get better. It's not okay, in my opinion, in this particular scenario, by the way. Now, if you like, if you fucked up somewhere else that, you were supposed to do a job and didn't do it, that would make sense. But in this case, they just didn't plan for it. Texas was not built to withstand this. It hasn't seen this in, I want to say it was 100 or 120 years. I can't recall the exact number, but at least 100 years. So, that infrastructure was built after that. So, it's just one of those misfortunate things. And Mother Nature is a motherfucker. That's the way I'm going to say that. And so, Ted Cruz, I think I got way off topic, but to answer your question about Ted Cruz, what he did is all this stuff went on in Texas, and he took his family and immediately jumped on a plane, and I think it was Cancun. So it's funny because I told him, I'm going to try to paraphrase it, but it said like Ted Cruz is the first Latino to board a plane with his family during a disaster to escape the heist to Mexico. Something along those lines, right? Like, so what Ted Cruz did is he grabbed his family, threw them on a plane, went to Mexico to avoid having to deal with all the, not having electricity, running water. People didn't have gas. People didn't shower for days. People didn't have running water because their pipes were frozen. Pipes were bursting. So people's houses not only were cold, but a lot of pipes burst. So now they have cold houses that are cold and there's water all over the floor. Like, there's a lot of horrible shit going on. So Ted Cruz as a senator, like as a leader, should have been there to help these people out. But instead, he takes his family, boards a plane, and heads down to Cancun to do, have warm weather. And here's the thing about that. Do I agree with what he did? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's a leader. He should have been there as a leader. He should have been focusing on being in that state to figure out what needs to be done next. However, 99.99999% of you motherfuckers who are yelling and screaming at him, if you had the means to do what he did as a non-leader, you would get your family the fuck out of there and do what he did. So what gives? You know what I mean? And again, I don't agree with him. Ted Cruz is kind of a scumbag. I mean, I don't really care about him. Total scumbag. But to shout at him for doing what he did as a leader, I get it. As somebody who's not a leader, if it was me and I was in Texas and I had the money and the means to get my family the fuck out of a potentially deadly situation, guess what? I'm gonna get my family out of a fucking potentially deadly situation. So I don't know. We're in such a time where it's like easy to point fingers to everybody. You know, like I can put my finger because you have a voice, because the internet gives you a voice. Like back in the day, people didn't have that voice, and so that voice can get super duper ugly. But anyways, Ted Cruz, total scumbag move. Don't agree with what he did. Think it was kind of shitty. But solely because he was a leader. If he was just my cousin Ted, was a Latino in Texas and he had the money to do that, hey man, I'm glad you got your family out of there. Because he's Ted Cruz, senator, he fucked up. So, and he's paying for it. I mean, he got lambasted all over the internet, and that's what he gets. Totally what he gets, man. If you're gonna take on the role as a leader, you got to be a leader, and that means being there during the hard times. That means being there during the deadly times. What he should have done is sent his family there, and his ass stayed here to deal with shit. That probably would have been a more respectable move. You know what I mean? But hindsight 2020 is always easy, right? It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, right? It's easy to quarterback shit after it's already happened, right? So, anyways, God, you guys are asking a lot of political questions. I'm gonna say that one till later because I feel like I'm talking about way too much politics. God, you people are so. This is one of the silly ones. Bush or no Bush? I assume you're talking about pubic hair and not the president from the early 2000s. So let me see here. I'm gonna take a drink and then think about this one. Bush or no Bush? I think unless it's 1970. The 1970s, everyone had Bush, right? All the porn from the 70s had big old Bush, and now today, hardly anybody has Bush. For me, I've actually did a poll on my Instagram regarding this a while back, and it's funny because like most everybody except for a very small percentage was like, no Bush, dude. It's not 1970, no Bush. Like, stop giving me Bush. And then people got into like the hygiene aspect of it, like, like if, for instance, a woman has a lot of pubic hair. I can't believe I'm talking about this on the podcast, but it's funny. If a woman had like a lot of pubic hair, like that, it can draw a lot more sweat to the body, which then in turn creates a lot more bacteria. And then so I decided I actually did some. I can't believe I'm talking about this. I actually did some research and started looking into this, and like, the pubic hair is there to do that purpose, but because of that, the pubic hair definitely can emit more smells because you're attracting more bacteria and stuff. So from an actual hygiene perspective, having a bush can definitely be detrimental to personal hygiene in a sense, from a smell perspective and other areas. So bush or no Bush, me definitely, I'm not a Bush guy, man. You got to get rid of it for me, I'm definitely like a, Tarzan in the jungle, but I ain't trying to have a jungle when it comes to sex. So yeah, definitely not a Bush guy. But I think to each their own, and we shouldn't shame people who want to have a bush or don't have a bush, but unless you're like at a pool and you're in a bikini and there's a big old bush hanging on the side, no one wants to see that. Trim the bush. But again, it's each their own. And some people really like it. Like, there's some guys who are really into it. And I'll say this. Here's the thing. When I did the poll, I would say like 99% of the men were like anti-bush. But there was that 1% who was like all about the bush. Like, I got to have the bush. And I was like, dude, that's so weird. To me, it's weird. But again, to each their own. It's probably the same kind of guys who are like really into feet pics. You know what I mean? Like, oh, feet are so sexy. Like, dude, about the smell, bro. Those are full of bacteria too. Like, if you're really into feet, like, now I'm not saying that, feet can't be attractive or cute, because definitely if a woman takes care of them and they put, they do get their feet done and they're soft, all that stuff, for sure, feet are definitely nice. But like, feet do zero for me from a perspective of like, Is that gonna make me horny or not? Definitely not. Like, feet are not gonna make me horny. It's nice to know you have nice toes, and that's attractive, but it's not turning me on. Like, you know, you're not gonna rev my engine just because you have pretty feet. Now, definitely don't have no ugly, big old freaking, you know, I don't know, man feet. That's not cute for sure. But anyways, bush or no bush. Another funny question. Do you think long distance relationships work? That's another good one. I have actually never done a long distance relationship myself because I know that for me personally, and again, I can only speak from personal experience. For me personally, I need to be around somebody when I'm really into them. Like, I need to be able to hold them, hug them, kiss them, see them. Like, to me, I'm a very affectionate person. So to me, long distance relationships would be very tough. And let's be honest, I mean, you know, phone sex and all that shit is just not the same. You know what I mean? So for me, from an affectionate perspective, I can't do it. Because what will happen is I know that I'll get annoyed and tired of it. And then I'm going to take that frustration out on the person I'm with. So for me, it doesn't work. And also there's a lot of insecurity aspects of kind of long distance relationships because I know that that's the way I am, and I would assume that the person I'm with and the kind of people I would date are the same way. So for me, it doesn't work out. However, I do know people who have very successful long distance relationships, and for them, it works out because not all of us are able to be with somebody, you know, all the time. Like, you need your space. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, even if you're in a relationship, you're a man, you're a woman, whatever, like, you need your space. Like, you need your time. You need your time with your friends, your time with yourself. You need your time to just be left alone where there's not somebody, you know, always in your space, basically. So I do know people, I have a couple that, a guy a long time ago, who was an older gentleman that I met, and him and his wife had been married for, God, I want to say like 20 plus years. And the more I learned about him, it was a business relationship, but the more I learned about him, the more I was like, well, that's a weird relationship. Cause he was like, yeah, you know, I live here in he lived basically north of Los Angeles in Ventura County. His wife lived in San Diego. And he goes, she lives there. I live here. I work here all day cause I run a business out here, but I go there on the weekends and we have our weekend fun. And then I come back up here and I do my thing. And it's been like that for years. And it's worked out amazingly because both of us, we're the type that'll get annoyed with each other. But on the weekends, we have an amazing fucking time. Like, we have 5 days where we're not in each other's hair. And then we have the weekends where it's basically like, it's almost like a fantasy vacation every weekend for them, you know? And I thought about it. I'm like, well, fuck, I guess that would work. You know what I mean? Because I definitely have been in relationships where I'm like, oh, I'm so annoyed at this chick. When she breathes, I want to fucking stab her in the eyeballs. Like, you know, we've all been in a relationship, no matter how much you love somebody, where like, if that person just like, choose their food too loud, you're like, shut up. Like, so for him and his wife, that really worked out. So for me personally, no. For some people, yes. Do I understand how it could work? Absolutely. It works. But I think I also, you know, for them, it worked for a long time. By the way, he was in that relationship I think they're still married. I don't know if they're still doing the same thing, but that is definitely something that could work out. I think it could work out for certain select people, though. I think most of us crave being near each other. I think most of us crave being around each other and kind of having that kind of real intimate personal experience. So, all right. Let's see here. God, there's so many questions. I'm trying to get it's already almost an hour through this podcast and I got so many questions. Keto and your experience with what you eat in a day. Keto. So I had my really good friend, for many years on the podcast, had like 3 or 4 podcasts ago, Robert Gutierrez, and he's an absolute animal, but he's also huge on his diet and working out and that kind of stuff. And so he was talking about being on the carnivore diet, which basically he just eats meat, pretty much meat and eggs. That's it. Just fucking meat and eggs. And the guy's an absolute animal, man. I think he's like 260 pounds and he's just fucking ripped, you know what I mean? He's like a Captain America, legit. And so when I was younger, I used to be that kind of guy. I was really into working out. I was really huge, like muscular, like full muscles and that kind of stuff. And then I got really fat over the last few years being a single full-time dad by myself. I just kind of let myself go. So on that podcast, he brought that stuff up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the keto diet. And I said, look, I can't do the carnivore diet because that's just an extreme thing to start off, going from all the shitty food I've been eating to that. But I'll try the keto diet. So I actually have been trying the keto diet now for almost 2 weeks. I weaned myself off carbs. About 3 weeks ago, I started to kind of really eliminate as many as I could. And then about 2 weeks ago, actually it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow, I just started to go along with the keto kind of regimen, which is basically like, for me, it's like 28 net carbs a day and pretty much a lot of fat and some protein, and fatty stuff. So I mean, like, eggs and meats and all kinds of stuff. And to be honest, I've been blessed because I am able to afford like the meals and the stuff that I need to eat a keto diet, because it is definitely expensive to eat a keto diet and to do it successfully, in my opinion, for me at least. Again, these are very personal experiences. So because, you can do it by just eating meats and eggs and whatever else and that kind of stuff, and kind of having a real high fatty diet, avocados, like real good, the good fats, but I need to have an experience of like something like a carbohydrate in my life. So I was able to go buy like the expensive substitute stuff, like the expensive, low carb breads, low carb snacks. I mean, I found these peanut butter cups that are like Reese's peanut butter cups that taste very much like them. Like you can eat those and be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like there's hardly any, I think there's like 2 net carbs in there, like 1 net carb per cup. Like, so I was able to buy all the stuff that made it very successful. But the one thing that I was able to implement, that helped me out on my day-to-day diet, that's really helped me out, and I've lost a few pounds already in 2 weeks, is I started using a meal prep service called Factor 75. I found them online. They, literally, you guys are talking about stuff, and then all of a sudden your phone, an ad pops up. That's literally what happened. So me and Robert were talking about like ketogenic diets and the carnivore diet. And so of course, Factor 75 popped up, and I looked into them, and I had been using another meal prep service now for years, to be honest, like about 2 or 3 years, a single full-time dad with, a full-time job and then a consulting service and a bunch of other stuff. Like I get really busy. So for me, cooking, and for these that know me, know that I cook a lot, but it gets tough to cook sometimes. So I knew to be successful with this particular diet, I had to have the meals ready, because when I get hungry, I'm hungry, because I'm so busy that when I need to eat, I need to eat. So I knew that I would fail if I didn't have the proper food that was good in front of me to be able to eat that matched my diet. So Factor 75, I ordered them just on faith. Like, I'm like, let me try it out. Let me try it out. So let me see what it's like. I cannot tell you how extremely satisfied I am with the Factor 75 ketogenic meals. It is, I get like 12 meals a week, so that covers lunch and dinner for 6 out of the 7 days. And then I either cook or order out the other day. And so far for the last 2 weeks, it has worked out amazing. And every one of their meals has been absolutely delicious. Because, the ketogenic diet is full of fat, you know what I mean? It's like a bunch of taco meat and cheese and sour cream on top of it. You know what I mean? Like, you can just eat like, and you feel like, but here's the other thing. Cutting out carbs, I can tell you this. I guess I figured out, I've had like a little bit of TMI, but I've had like IBS my entire life. Like, my gut has never been normal. My mom's gut is the same way. My son's gut is the same way. It just runs in our family. But since I've cut out carbs, the first week was tough because your stomach is adjusting. I was in a world of freaking diarrhea, man. It was horrible the first, like, I would say like 3 or 4 days. But after that, after my stomach started to adjust, because really what you're doing is you're removing the years of abuse you've done to your body. I mean, we have such a carb-rich diet. It's gross in America. That's why we're fat. And so as I started to move that out, my gut is really shifted. And I am taking the most healthy dumps I've ever taken in 25 years. Weird. It's really weird. And I'm starting to think that maybe all the carbs are just what were screwing up my stomach. My stomach was never normal. It's weird. I know it's TMI, but I'm just giving you guys kind of my experience so far with the diet. Now, again, I'm only 2 weeks in. I've definitely lost about 7 or 8 pounds, maybe a little bit more. I definitely can feel the difference. I feel more positive throughout my days. I feel just a lighter sense of life, almost, in a sense. And I just think the diet we eat is really shitty, man. And we know scientifically too, from a biological perspective, that our guts are connected directly to our brains. Our brains are absolutely connected to our guts. So if you don't have a healthy gut, you're not going to have a healthy brain. And it's been a good experience so far, and it's been easy to do. Again, I've been blessed with being able to afford the meal prep service and the expensive snacks and stuff. Like, I have amazing yogurts that I buy that are like keto friendly. There's keto friendly ice cream out there that's amazing. It's like eating Rocky Road ice cream, but it's keto friendly. Like, there's all this keto friendly stuff you can do, and you can drop weight. And everyone I know that's done it has dropped a ton of weight. Now, the one thing that I'm going to wait on, and I'll do probably a month or two in, is check my blood and lipid levels to see kind of cholesterol. Now, I've always had traditionally high cholesterol since I was young. And doctors have always been like, we want to put you on this statin. And I'm like, nah, dude, because, 40, 50, 60 years ago, the cholesterol levels, they've been adjusted. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for a number of years, and I know that they adjusted the lipid cholesterol levels, HDL and LDL, to match so that they can sell more statin drugs. That's just what happened. It's just a fact. That's not to say that heart disease doesn't happen when you have higher cholesterol. Of course it does. But I'm curious to see, now that I've adjusted the diet to this and I feel so much better, to see if my levels have gotten better or gotten worse. And if they gotten worse, then hey, bye-bye keto. What I'll do is I'll adjust my diet to a more kind of paleo diet and incorporate some healthy carbs, like fruits and vegetables and stuff. Well, by the way, you can eat vegetables on keto, most vegetables, but more fruits and stuff to have some more sweet and stuff in there and fiber and stuff like that. But so far it's been good, to answer your question. It's been good, but I think I had to prepare myself to do it. And now looking back 2 weeks in, there's not been a single period of time during this entire 2 weeks where I felt hungry, where I felt frustrated because the diet sucked, where I felt discomfort, other than like I said, the first 2 or 3 days I had really bad diarrhea, but that was that's probably just because my gut has never been normal. So even when that was happening, I was like, yeah, whatever, just another typical day for me, like not a big deal. So for me, it's been net positive. It's been positive. So I'll let you guys know. I'll keep touching on it going forward. All right. Let's see here. Other questions. How long is too long? I mean, sometimes these are hard to read. How long is too long? I mean, when having sex, is it 30 minutes or 1 hour? What's the normal? I don't know what the normal is, man. But the older I get, the more it's all about just satisfaction. Like, can I satisfy you? Can you satisfy me? And the quicker I can make you come and make me come, the better. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need to be breaking your back for an hour for it to be satisfactory. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like to, because I think it all depends on my mood. There's some days where I want to beat cheeks for a long time. There's some days I just want to knock it out real quick. I think it's a very personal question. I don't know if I can answer that. I'm sure there's some kind of scientific shit you can Google that tells you what is, the normal length or average length of sex. But again, for me, sometimes I want to knock it out quickly and know that you're satisfied and I'm satisfied. And sometimes I want to act like I'm freaking the king of the jungle and put in work. You know what I mean? And so it just for me, it boils down to the mood that I'm in. What mood am I in? Am I in the mood to be a savage, or am I in the mood because I just want to knock something out and get back to work after lunch? I don't think there's an answer to that question. I don't know what's too long or too short. I think people exaggerate. Like, there's all those women who are like, I don't want no 1 minute man or 2 minute man. And I'm like, but girl, I'll give you the best 2 pumps of your life. You know what I mean? Best 2 minutes of your life. 2 pump chump over here. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. I don't really have it. Another question I don't really have an answer to, other than to say that, I think if you are really in tune sexually with your partner, you can knock it out really quickly and both be very satisfied. And it doesn't have to take an hour to do that. Again, in 2021, we're in a really, really weird place with regards to sexuality and kind of the things we're doing to get off. We're just in an extremely weird place, people. I'm telling you right now. All the things that we need to do to get women off is weird. This whole kind of rape me, spank me, choke me, abuse me shit is just weird to me. Not saying that, like, if you want that, I'm not going to do that. Just saying it's fucking weird. You know what I mean? But Anyways, whatever. All right, let's go on to the next question. Um, Single parenting and loneliness. This is one I've touched on in the past, actually. Let me think here. Sorry if you hear me sipping on the mic there. It's because I'm just drinking some tea. But single parenting and loneliness. So I've touched on this in the past, and again, I can only offer my experience and what I think is true. Me and my son have talked. Actually, my son has been on the podcast, and we've talked about this together on the podcast. I've been raising him now. It'll be 8 years alone. His mother's not been involved at all in May, and so early on for the first few years, my son was in a tough place, and I felt that it was really beholden upon me as a parent to put my love life aside and to really focus on raising him, and to get him to a better, healthier place in his life, because he was in a tough place. I mean, he had a really tough time early on, and so I think both of us did. I mean, to be honest, if your kid's having a tough time, you're having a tough time, right? So we both were suffering, and I decided that it was the most important thing to just focus on getting us both, him mostly though, and then me, back to a healthy place. And so I didn't really date seriously at all. And I made that conscious decision to be like, no, I'm just not going to do it. There's always options out there, man. It's 2021. It's so easy to hook up with a chick these days. Like, there's tons of options out there to be serious with somebody, and I just decided to put it off. So, 1 year turns into 2, 2 turns into 3, 3 turns into 4. My son he's now in a very good, healthy place. And so now, he's about to be 18, and now I'm finding myself now all these years later going, oh shit, like I was never lonely. I mean, I want to be very clear in saying like it's not like I was lonely or sexually like not satisfied. I definitely was having my fun. I just didn't entertain anything serious because I felt that my serious attention should be on my son pretty much and raising him. And so now looking back, hindsight 2020 again, looking back, and my son talked about this, like I probably would have been a better father had I entertained a real relationship with a woman who could have brought a womanly touch into our household, who could have been there for me for the times I needed somebody to be there for me when I was alone. And I think single parents, you should not negate. Now looking back, I can 100% say, from the bottom of my soul, that like I would have probably been a better dad had I allowed a woman into our life. A good woman, not just any other hood rat or whatever, but a good woman, like a good relationship. And so I look back now and go, man, I really made a mistake. That's a mistake I made. You know what I mean? And I don't hate myself over that or anything like that. But I do look back and go, hey, I did a pretty damn good job with what I had, the tools I had at the time. But I probably would have done such a fucking more amazing job had I fulfilled my needs as a human. Because how can you potentially help out another human and pour into their cup if your cup isn't full? If your cup's half empty, you can't overflow with your cup into their cup, right? So like the thing is, unless you're full, you can never really offer your full potential to somebody. So I look back and I do absolutely regret that. And when I talk to people, especially single moms, when they ask me like, because I find a lot of single moms, and there's a lot of single moms out there who are like, well, yeah, I'm not going to date. I'm just going to focus on this. I'm just going to do this. It's just me and my kids right now. And I'm like, oof. And it's one of those things that like, you want to say, hey, look, out of experience, I can tell you that's wrong. I can tell you that's wrong. That's the wrong approach. You know what I mean? But everybody experiences life at different time points in their life. So I can only say that so much without sounding like an asshole or without even them even understanding what I'm saying, So my advice to single parents out there would be, don't put your love life aside. That does not mean you negate your kids. You can go out on a fucking date every Friday and get hammered with your girlfriends and look for some dick, and guys be out there partying in clubs looking for some pussy. What that means is you find a responsible way to date. You find the right person, the person who's going to help fill your cup, so that then you have a full cup to pour into others, including and most importantly, your kids. So again, when it comes to single parenting and loneliness, that would be my absolute advice is don't do this whole, I'm not ready. I gotta wait until my kids. I'm worried about my kids now. Like, I get it. I get it. But it's like anything else. If you want to make time for it, you will. And there's nothing more important to make time for than yourself other than your kids. And so my advice to you would be, you as a woman asking me this question, is don't be lonely. Being lonely sucks. It's not good. And if I had a chance to do it again, there was great women who came during this period of time. I would have probably married. I would definitely have married one of those women, or maybe not married, but that could have been an outcome. But I would have definitely dated seriously. Now looking back early on to make sure that I had, I had a full cup to pour from. So that's the way I'll say that. God, man, so many fucking political questions. Give your opinion on our current administration, since many of your followers believe that Biden and Kamala are it. All right, I'm gonna start off by saying this because I get a lot of heat from both people on the left and the right. Other words, very progressive and or conservative people, because I am very much in the middle, and I've always been, and I find it to be repulsive when there's somebody who's like fucking Trump, you know what I mean? Like Republican, like Ted Cruz. And then I find it repulsive when someone's like fucking, Biden, Kamala, Obama. Like, it's so fucking dumb. Like, if you have bought into the idea or drank the Kool-Aid from either side, where that's all you see and everything outside of that is bad to you, that's such a myopic view of our political system. It's such a minuscule way to look at things. It's such a grotesque way to look at things. So what I'm frameworking this early on so that people on both sides don't judge me, which they're going to do anyhow. And you know what? I don't give a fuck. But at the end of the day, like, if you're stuck on one side and you're holding on to that goalpost for the fucking dear life of you over some political system, then you're already ignorant enough for me not to care about. I'm gonna put it out there just like that. And that's some real walkie-talkie right there. Use your own goddamn brain, because at the end of the day, and I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again, I just want married couples, gay married couples, to be able to guard their marijuana plants with AR-15s while paying the least amount of taxes possible. That's my fucking political view. I mean, I'm on both sides, man. I'm literally on both sides. And so, but also one thing people should know about me is I am also one of those people who find fault in just about every politician. I think politicians are gross. I think in order to be a politician, you got to be gross. You got to be a scumbag. It's almost like a glorified car salesman. Like, not our car salesmen are bad and scummy, but let's be honest, most of them are. Well, I think most politicians who get in politics early on, when they start their political career, I think they started from a place of like, I really want to help my community. I really want to help my people from this area and whatever it may be. But as they evolve and grow into their political career becomes very heavily influenced by the side they choose. We have a two-party political system. The independent side doesn't matter in this country. I don't care if you have an I next to your name and you're a senator. It means you don't matter. You're either Democrat or you're Republican. You're either conservative or you're progressive. It doesn't matter in this country. In this particular country, our political climate is fucking gross. And it's always going to be gross. It's just built that way. And so if you come in and you start off as a mayor, a governor, whatever it is, and then you start to build your way up and you get into the Senate, and then all of a sudden you become a president or whatever it is, it literally, it's just the amount of people that are going to influence you throughout your career are going to change you as a human if you decide to go that path, if you decide to go that high up in politics. So, and I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen to people I know. It's gross. It's gross. I don't want to throw people under the bus, but it's gross. It's just gross. It's gross to see people change because they side with one side of politics. So what I'm saying is when I talk about Biden and Harris now going forward, it's not from I'm a Trump supporter and I'm fucking a Republican, because I'm not, against Biden and Harris. It's because I think Biden and Harris definitely have a lot of fucking problems. They have a lot of problems, people. We, as a society, decided to say we hate this orange Cheeto man so much that we're going to elect this other couple of people who have a fucking very problematic past because we hate him so much. Nobody, I don't know a single person, I have not met or know a single person personally who was like, I voted for Joseph Biden because of like his views on things or because of his ideas and because his political stances on things. No, they voted for him because they hated fucking Trump. They hated Trump. Biden can barely complete a coherent sentence. If you guys have been watching him on TV, he can barely complete a coherent sentence. That's coming from a Mexican who stumbles on his words after 2 fucking shots of tequila. And I'm talking about this guy who's running the most powerful country in the history of mankind that we know of, that's documented, can barely complete a coherent sentence. And it's insane. You know what I mean? And to cover more kind of topics on him, like, you know, I mean, he's the guy who created, drafted, and made the fucking, I think it's 1994 crime bill, incarcerated more people of color in this country than ever. It's the reason why we have the prison system we have today and the way it's fucking designed. It's fucking gross. It's gross. He's gross. Kamala Harris. There's a meme out there that has, it's crazy. It's all these little tiny faces of all the black men that she incarcerated in her career. And there's like thousands of them. And they made like a collage out of it that makes her face out of it though. Her face is made out of all these tiny little pixels of all the black men she put into jail. It's gross. Like, and this is the thing that the left and the progressives voted into office just because they hated the Cheeto man. Now, I'm not saying that. I think if I'm being 100% frank, I think the decision we had this year was gross. I think the decision we had in the last election was gross. I think the election before that was gross. I think the elections all the way back to Clinton were fucking gross. We've never been given a good option. But the fact that people are arguing, I mean, I've watched families be like divided over their political views. It's gross. All these politicians are fucking gross. These politicians are absolutely gross. All of them. And until we as people start to look back and go, okay, you know, this guy was bad, that guy was bad, that guy, and we start to look at them and go, okay, they all have their own political agendas. All of them have their own political agendas. Like, excuse me. Sorry about that. I just burped on the mic. Excuse me. But I guess, to me, all politicians are gross. Joseph Biden isn't in politics now. He's literally never built a business. He's literally never built anything in his life. He's been in the governmental sector, working, making money for 40 plus years, and has done nothing other than government. How can you trust somebody who's done nothing other than politics? It's gross. It's really gross. You know, he just said, here's one thing that he just said, he's done a couple things, but here's one thing he just did this week that was fucking mind-blowing, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody. I don't even know how to pronounce the name. It's I'd have to look it up. But there's a small subsect of Muslims in China, okay, that have been rounded up and put into military camps, like forced work camps, and now they make products that Americans use. And they just been done by the Chinese government because the Chinese government is afraid of this Muslim faction for whatever reason, right? Which is fine, whatever. But that's also like, it's not fine. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. It's actually gross. And the reason why is because people are looking at it now going, hey, dude, this is like a genocidal thing. Like, this is like genocide. Like, I think there's like 2 or 3 million of them. The Yuzheng, I gotta find the name. I'll have to look it up. I wish I knew the name off the top of my head, but it's spelled really funny because it's in Chinese and I can't pronounce it. But anyways, they've rounded up all these people in the country and put them into forced work camps. And every other president, you know, or at least Trump and other people were like, this is gross. This is not okay. Like, this is a genocidal thing. Like, this is not, you can't just round people up because they're fucking a certain religion and then put them in a camp and force them to work for you and create products that then drives revenue for your country. That's fucking insane. Biden on Tuesday literally said, well, it's just a cultural difference thing. And then after he said that, he goes, look, I know this president from China for a long time now. Because even, I've hung out with him many times, and I know him personally, and I know he wouldn't do anything bad. Like, he even went so far to say, like, there was a time where we traveled for 1,700 miles together, or 17,000 miles across the road together, doing stuff together. I know him personally. Like, if you know him personally, then why would you think it's okay for him to round up a fucking religious sect and force them under basically slave labor to sell products to us? It's just weird. I mean, it's just gross. And it's all a politically driven thing. And if you want to know anything about anything, just follow the money. Follow the fucking money. Follow the money. And I just wish more Americans would do their research and open their eyes, because there's so much gnarly shit that's going on, and Americans just don't open their eyes. They're like, whatever. It's whatever. Like, fucking, they just let shit happen. And I don't understand that. I will never be a part of, in today's day and age, where literally you have the world history at your fingertips for free every day. Being ignorant is a choice. And there's a lot of fucking ignorant people out there right now. And it's insane to me. And I don't understand it. I can't relate to it. And I don't understand it. I just don't get it. But anyway, so to answer your question, man, this administration is gross to me. Another thing Biden just did is there was this other thing people don't see. People just don't pay attention. So a lot of you don't know how critically important it is to guard our infrastructure. Infrastructure mean, again, what happened in Texas, right? Water, power, gas, right? We have, as a country, well, that's a whole other topic, but other countries have utilized like hacking to destroy grids of other countries already. It's a form of warfare. So if we are hacking the grid of, say, Russia, and we destroy the electrical grid, people are going to die. They're going to go hungry. And so we have been supportive of those efforts. I don't want to get too deep into another topic, but just know that hacking has been done at a level where we've caused nuclear meltdowns in other countries. Now, it's still up in the air whether that was us or Israel, but either way, whether it was us or them, we had to have been in cahoots together to do it, and that was against Iran. So if you guys want to Google something that's an amazing, extraordinary story, Google Stuxnet. Stuxnet was a hacking thing that happened that basically we hacked into a nuclear grid in Iran and melted down the nuclear program so that they couldn't create nuclear weapons. And really, the nuclear program was also to help them get electricity and stuff. So, but these kinds of things are dangerous. So anyways, Trump signed an executive order after discovering that Chinese hackers were hacking into our grid last year. Trump immediately signed an executive order saying, we're going to fucking combat this and stop this from happening. This is how we're going to do it. Biden reversed that order in one of the orders he just signed. Why would you reverse an order that protects our grid from the China? Literally outlined these Chinese hackers can access our grid and hack our grid, and then he reverses that action. It's just insane to me. So anyways, but again, I can find faults in all these organizations. I found faults in Trump's. I found fucking many faults in Obama's. I can find a fault in all these administrations, and it's just because, to be honest, they're politicians and they're all full of shit. And I don't respect politicians. I never have, and I probably never will. So that's just my point. All right, so I'm gonna stop the questions because the questions have been going on for some time now. There's probably like, I don't know, 100, and I'm just picking and choosing random ones. Literally like like any, mini, miny, mo, catch a question by the toe. There's just so many of them. But we'll do another question answer podcast. But now I want to get onto a topic where I want to open some minds a bit, because again, I feel like Americans are so uninformed, because we're like, in England, they have like the royal family. That's like their Hollywood, that's who they look up to and aspire to be. And that's like the people that like kind of capture the minds and hearts of their people. Here we have Hollywood, and Hollywood is so fucking gross. And people are so ignorant. I'm going to say it, ignorant. And here's the reason why, because I think I'm going to read something to you guys, and I'm going to ask you to tell me who this person is. And I can guarantee you that most people don't know this about this person. And so let me go and pull this up and read this to you guys, because I think it's something like, I want to open minds, right? So I'm going to read. This is part of a speech from somebody that was given in 1858 in this country. Okay. All right, ready. Here's the speech. I will say then that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social, political equality of the white and black races. And then there's a big applause. People clap. Okay. This has been given as a speech. That I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, or of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. I'm going to read that one more time for you guys. I will say then that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about it in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. That I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. I will say in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. I'm going to ask you guys to think about that for a second. Who said that? 1858. And I think I'm going to blow your mind for a second. That was Abraham Lincoln who said that. It was given in a speech in 1858. He was running against, he was having a debate against a gentleman named Stephen Douglas, who had accused him of supporting Negro equality. So in other words, somebody from the political, by the way, Abraham Lincoln, who was the guy who freed the slaves, the president who freed the slaves, was a Republican. The Democrats were the racists at the time. And his racist opposition running for Senate, this is before he was a president, the racist opposition that was running as a senator against him was Stephen Douglas, who was a Democrat. And he accused him of saying, you're horrible because you're supporting Negro equality in this country. That is a speech that Abraham Lincoln gave. Now, what is the narrative we've been given as a country? Is that Abraham Lincoln was the guy for equality, was the guy who freed the slaves, blah, 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 blah. No. He was a man who was against slavery. He believed from an ethical standpoint that it was not okay to have slaves, human slaves. But he was not about equality. He was actually a white supremacist. These are his own words. So my point to you guys in this podcast, and this kind of ending it kind of with something to think about, because I want to make people think, is all the people today that are fighting over left and right, and Biden and Kamala versus Trump, and all this crazy shit, and left versus right, and Democrats versus fucking Republicans, and progressives versus conservatives. Like, just know that you're all being fed a narrative. I'm sure Abraham Lincoln said this because he probably believed it, but also more likely than not, it's because this is what was going to get him votes. And back then, it wasn't like today. I mean, he could say this shit and get away with it back then because he could have been in a southern state preaching this shit to try to get southern votes, but there was no internet, there was no radio, there was no TV that was going to get it back to the northern states. We're all being tricked by this whole political bullshit, man. And at the end of the fucking day, we need to stop fighting each other, because this political system is dividing us in a way that is unhealthy, it's grotesque, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. This is the political speech that was going on. I want to read that one more time for you guys. These are the words of Abraham Lincoln. He gave in his fourth debate speech in Charleston, Illinois, on September 18th, 1858, against Stephen Douglas. I'm going to read it for you one more time. Abraham Lincoln, the man you were told your entire life, all the way through your schooling and up until this day, was the man who freed the slaves because he was pro-black and pro-this and pro-that. He was anti-slavery, but he was a white supremacist. I'm going to read it for you again. I will say then that I am not, nor have ever been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. If I could do anything with this podcast or anything with my fucking platform, it's to make people think and to understand that we've all been fed a bunch of bullshit, and it all boils down to political nonsense and to how follow the money. So, in any case, guys, this has been a good one. I appreciate all the questions that were sent in. I wish I can get to more, but I got stuff to do. It's Sunday, and I got to get out there and get some stuff. I've been so busy stuck in the house. I'm starting to look freaking pale and green. I need some sun on my face. But I appreciate y'all, you guys, very much so. And thank you guys so much for listening. If I'm being serious, again, I'm super, extremely humbled at the fact that so many of you listen to this. It's mind-blowing to me. It's humbling, and I appreciate it more than you know. This started out as just like a hobby, something to do for fun during this pandemic. And it's just weird how it's turned out into an actual podcast that people listen to. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy and happy out there. And just remember, man, just a little bit of love goes a long way. All this us against them shit has got to stop. So peace out, everybody. Thanks again. We'll have another one soon.